Knowing that I was the last bus driver or the last person to see her get off the bus and go into the school to her demise was really heavy heart for me. I was really traumatized and was for quite a long time.
It caused a lot of anxiety, just even to be, at home and then having to go into Sandy Hook that day. It was overwhelming. I'm sure I was in shock and really in disbelief like most people. And until I was on the highway and just saw the crowd of people and the exit was closed, and that's when I really lost it and knew that it was true.
You think things like that happen anywhere else in the world, but not in the town next door.
We had 6 students lose siblings, and 15 of our faculty teachers had taught previously at Sandy Hook School, some as recently as the previous June.
I think the magnitude of what we had to do really started to come to our surface.
Dealing with his PTSD on a daily basis, knowing that it wasn't my fault. I'm gonna cry. Sorry.
They were noticing. They were noticing more than me. I didn't notice.
He just wasn't present, and you would talk to him and he wouldn't even respond. He would listen to you and go, and then that would be the end of the conversation. So, short-tempered to every question sometimes that was asked, and just wasn't him, because he was always happy-go-lucky, always made everybody smile, and that wasn't there anymore. It was gone. And that was hard. Seeing the pain on his face when he would come home every day from doing the work that he did.
We're trained to handle whatever comes our way, and then, especially being a man, and move on from there, and not allow emotions or anything within our mind really take over and bother us.
That was the hardest, because I knew he was feeling it, but he couldn't show it. He stopped even coming home at night, because when he came home, he didn't know what to do when he got there. So he just stayed at work and worked, and not coming home and being with the family and enjoying life and as it is. And the minute that he got home, he would just fall asleep. So there was a complete disconnect of everything.
We all think that we can handle it. I mean, especially in industries, that our first responders, they teach you to disassociate yourself.
I needed to reach out and get help for him, because I could no longer follow him around. And that's what I was doing every day, every hour of the day, just following him, making sure he was okay, and I wasn't living.
I had a lot of difficult tragedy in the next few months following. And when you combine it all together, again, we're taught to disassociate. But I guess you can do that at one incident at a time. But when it all builds up, it's impossible to do that. Eventually, you're going to crash.
People were just looking anywhere for help, and so they were going to a lot of different counselors. They were going to different places and trying different things and listening to each other.
Actually, I think many people are starting to suffer from what we call trauma fatigue. They're tired of hearing about it, they're tired of talking about it, but mostly they're tired of being symptomatic and not getting relief.
The long-lasting effects of post-traumatic stress are awful. The frustration, again, comes out as anger in being short with people and intolerant and impatient. Those are signs of post-traumatic, and we need to deal with these. And it's not going to go away in time. It's because then these become habits, that you get angry with people when things don't go your way, you get frustrated. You have to deal with that frustration, understand that frustration, and that'll take care of the anger.
Any healing in Newtown is critical. There is a limited amount of money. We know that this community has seen a lot of generosity worldwide from people who reached out and wanted to help, but that has that has slowed down. There are other tragedies, there's other things to be concerned about around the world, and we will not see the likes of what we saw in the last 2 years in terms of funding. When I am paying out $20,000+ a week for out-of-pocket mental health costs for folks, that's not sustainable. Most of our funding partners have already gone through all the money that they had. We are one of the few remaining that has a substantial amount of money still left, and we know that the impact that these families and children and teachers and first responders will be years and years to come. We're at the start of a marathon, and I think so many people think that it's wrapped up or people are moving on when it's really just beginning. You know, what we're really hearing now is that the fog is just starting to finally lift. So it's actually just the start of feeling the tremendous pain and loss and grief and guilt and suffering that will be felt for years and years to come.
My girlfriend was suffering PTSD from Afghanistan, and she saw what we were going through at home, and she has suggested tapping. So I looked it up and I started tapping.
As much as people want to change, I know it's very difficult to change because we all go back to our old habits, even if we change a little bit. But to see somebody, just watch her change from who she is now, from what she, after everything she went through, was pretty amazing. And I think that's what gave me the strength to say, well, I've never seen anybody change this much, so something must be working for her, and, you know, maybe it will work for me.
Well, at first he didn't get it. You know, he was very apprehensive. He didn't understand what all the tapping, the points, and what it would do. But after his first session with Lori, I saw a change. He seemed a little more, it seemed like a release. He finally discussed it with someone, which was good, because he wouldn't discuss it with anybody. It was quiet, because he was always told you're not supposed to discuss it. You're supposed to keep it quiet. Second treatment, second session, he was much better. And now he's just a completely different person. And it's wonderful. And I can't thank God enough for what happened. He's just, he's the guy I met when he was 18. Again, and it's great.
Having a balance and being calm within your heart and within your soul, you know, I guess that's what most people long for and most people search for.
I kind of was stifled when I first came in. It was kind of like internal. I didn't want to get it out. But tapping has been able to help me get it out. And now I can talk to other people about it. And I think that might be where a lot of people that are in traumatic situations, even in Newtown, they just don't know how to get it out. And once it goes out, it flows, and they're scared of that. And it's like you're peeling layers off of an onion. I liken it to like being a snake and I shed my skin. You know, I really did that, and I can't say. It's just awesome. I don't have anything more to say, but it's awesome. You guys, you just have to try it.
What I get is we've been in therapy for a year, and what you've done in 6 weeks has brought us so much further than a year of therapy. So there's been a lot of healing through the tapping that I've witnessed and I've been part of.
The guilt, the shame, the helplessness, the pain, everything was just kind of like going off in a cloud, you know?
I mean, if you want to do it quietly, it's perfect. No one has to know.
You look at it, it just seems too easy. You do have to understand the brain chemistry. You have to understand what happens with trauma. You're changing the way the brain is storing the trauma memory, the trauma capsule.
Trauma itself, post-traumatic stress, can be healed in 8 to 10 sessions. People can go to traditional psychotherapy for years and not get relief.
Well, in our distribution committee, when first deciding, you know, when looking at all the grant proposals, there were some that were completely unfamiliar with the technique. And one immediately said, I've never heard this, I'm in the medical field, what is this? Can we just cross this one off the list? Do we have to even talk about this? And immediately 3 of our distribution committee members said, wait, we know this. It sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, it changed my life. It changed my child's life. Or I had a neighbor who was struggling. And so, the more people you talk to, you realize that they're friends, neighbors, family members all over that are using this that you might not know of. So I think there is some skepticism. From a professional perspective, I feel too often that clinicians or practitioners get stuck in whatever model is the one that they specialize in. And it can be hard. It's as if when you open your eyes and mind to something else, that maybe what you've been doing all this time isn't as effective as you thought, and that can be scary for people. But I do feel there's a need, there's a calling to the mental health community and the community at large to really think outside the box, open your mind to other possibilities. And if there are people saying it's working, then there's something to it. If it's someone who's finding relief, then it's worth looking into further.
As a trauma survivor, I didn't know that the symptoms could really be alleviated permanently. I didn't believe that to be true. I now believe that that's true, and I think it's true because of tapping.
From both a clinical perspective as well as a funding perspective, what appeals to me is the sustainability of this technique. The resources are quickly drying up in this town, and the impact is so far-reaching that to have a tool that individuals can use once they know it, once they've learned it, once they've experienced it in a therapeutic setting, to have that in their back pocket to use whenever they need is pretty remarkable. And there are very few techniques that I know of where that can be done, where you don't have to make an appointment and see a therapist or take a medication, that you have control. You can use your own wonderful, amazing healing body to provide relief.
I feel like I have a really good clinical toolbox to use as a trauma specialist, but this is different. This is so much more efficient and gets to the core issue so quickly that it continues to amaze me.
All the talk therapy, all the techniques I know, there were all kinds of things that I could not release with what I knew. And I came to a place of true release and understanding and forgiveness and personal peace that I had not come to with any other method. And I was astounded beyond belief at the release.
When we know as trauma specialists that we can't talk through trauma. We have to work on the somatic experience or the body experience, and we have to relieve the brain of the way that it's holding that memory. And until that happens, permanent lasting relief cannot be achieved.
When we are in the grip of an uncomfortable emotion, pain, heartache, anger, fear, fear of the unknown, fear for our safety, that's all bound up in the body. And what EFT does for me is it releases those sensations from my body in a way that I'm in a calmer and more peaceful place. I'm not bound up with the emotion in such a way that I'm a prisoner to it. And I can be fully present to what's going on right now in life. Because when you're present and you're aware, there are all these possibilities and all these things that you notice that when you're bound up in an emotion that you don't notice.
Particularly in Newtown, where there is still such deep suffering, we have an obligation to bring forth what is going to be most healing for this community. And I feel that this is one of those ways.
To know that you're not alone with your pain and suffering. I think we all want that. And Einstein, Albert Einstein, the physicist, he said it's an illusion that we believe that we are alone in the world. It's just an illusion to believe that we're alone. And it is an illusion to believe that we're alone with our own suffering. There's always someone out there And I say this to everybody in Newtown and beyond, there's always someone out there who can be of help to you, who can support you, who can care for you, and walk with you to those places that are hard to look at.
You guys reached out to me when I had no one. I don't know what to say, except thank you. I appreciate it all. You changed our lives and it's perfect. I don't know what else to say. Thank you.